This has been here about a week or so now. It's a German artillery shell. It's very live because it hasn't gone off. The fuse has been ploughed through. Okay, we're thinking a shell of this size will contain one of two things: either chemical, so gas, okay, or high explosives. So if this thing was to go off now, it would leave a big smoking hole in the ground where we're standing here. None of us would be kind of going home this evening. So this is quite common to see this stuff laying about here. That's the point I was making earlier. Just because it's laying about, don't assume it's safe. British Mills bombs, and they haven't gone off. Okay. You know, see, so these haven't gone off. Okay. Now the bomb disposal units get particularly wary of these because the older these things get, the more unstable they become. So I definitely wouldn't be messing about with those. Nancy here is the wife of Heert, who owns the farm. Okay, and they have a problem here when they harvest their potatoes, because when these things come out of the ground caked in mud or clay, they're about the same size as a large potato. So their potato sorting machines not only find stones and stuff, it finds live hand grenades. Okay, so that's one thing. Okay, now do you remember I made a big point in the museum about saying look at a British rifle, look at what a Lee Enfield rifle looks like. This is one which has been dropped by a soldier in the First World War and has been ploughed up. So all the metal is in, or most of the metal is intact, but you can see the stock is gone and all the wood is gone. But flip it over and look in the magazine, it's still got rounds in the magazine. Now you have to be realistic about this and ask yourself, well, why was this dropped? Probably because the soldier was either killed or badly wounded. And when you see barrels bent like this, it's one of either two things: farm machinery when it's ploughed up, okay, or blast at the time. So that could be one or two things that bend a barrel like that. Okay. Canadian friends here. When did you leave Canada? So you're back on Canadian soil again, but I mean Canadian soil. They shipped over soil from Canada, from every area of Canada after the war, and laid it on this site to represent every single Canadian soldier who fought and died here. Now there's lots of symbolism in the park. So this is called Vancouver Corner by the Canadians, and the monument is called the Brooding Man. These trees around the back, they're Canadian cedars. They used to be, they cut them down.
Where are we now, Mum?
We're at the Brooding Man. What did they call him?
The Brooding Man.
Brooding soldier.
And what country is it commemorating? Canada?
Canada.
What about this over here, Mum?
The gas.
The gas that killed so many soldiers. It sunk into the ground because it was chlorine.
You've got to remember they've shipped all the soil over from Canada for Kenya.
Which way is it facing?
It's facing towards Canada.
That's correct. You pass. How you finding it, Noah?
It's nice here. It's big.
Good tour, isn't it?
We've had this tour because I thought we could have done this on ourselves, but we couldn't, could we?
No, not at all. Not in the comfort and the knowledge.
In somebody's garage.
Yeah.
I wondered what he was going to show us.
So when they cleared the 180 German cemeteries, each German cemetery had graves of unknown soldiers. So rather than spread the unknowns around the 4 cemeteries, they brought them all here. So they created a focal point. So they cleared this area of existing graves, dug the mass grave. It's not a pit, as some people will tell you. It's a concrete lined room, it's an ossuary. Filled it full of remains, nearly 25,000, and sealed it. Okay. At the same time though, they dug a crypt beneath our feet, because of course they recover German bodies here every year, as they do British and Commonwealth. And the entrance to it, you'll never see it, it's never open to the public. Where the last slab is there, where it reads Flanders on the shield, they move that concrete slab away. There's a manhole cover beneath there. So all they do is open it up, put a ladder down, and they pass the German remains. They bury them in short coffins like this. Because don't forget, it's skeletal remains now, so it only has to be as big as the longest bone, you know, in the human body, basically. It's stacked up from top to bottom beneath our feet. So, the names either side, there's 15,500 names either side here. Mass grave, 1950s. These names go up at the back end of the 1980s. And the reason for that is up until that point, the Germans believed all their First World War German army records had been destroyed in World War II. But when the Berlin Wall comes down at the back end of the 80s from Eastern Europe, or East Germany, sorry, the Bavarian records turned up. And it told the German government the names of every Bavarian First World War soldier in the German army who's missing in Belgium with no known grave. As this is the only mass grave of the unknowns, it made sense to put the Bavarian names either side. So it's a bit like a Bavarian men in game. But when families were told of this, other families requested, well, my great uncle was a Prussian, he's missing in Belgium, can he go on there? So he added to it. Okay. So to say, as some guides will tell you, they're all in there is not the case. Some will be in there by definition. A lot will be buried in the 4 cemeteries, and a lot more still lost in the fields. Rows, tightly back, shoulder to shoulder. Each one of these stones today is in the middle of 8 burial plots. That's why you've got 8 names. Okay? So 7 names, so it's meant to be 7. When you get to the top area, again, there's some of those 2,000 German bunkers up there. There's about 3 left up there. The small blocks in between, they represent a trench line, or meant to. And the names carved into the front of them are those far-right youth groups, but also regiments of men buried here. But at the time, there was no burial. So in the 50s, they reburied 10,000 at the top there. Okay. And when you go up there, you'll see the stones are twice the size. They've got 16 names on average on each stone, but they're still only in the middle of 8 burial plots. Because it's 1950s and skeletal remains, in bags, 2 bags of bones in each grave. Okay. So, the myth about the stones, how does this come about? Have you guys over the years seen Band of Brothers? Yeah? Yeah. Okay, the Battle of the Bulge, the Battle of the Ardennes, Bastogne, 1944. Okay. The German armies retreated from here. It's occupied this area for 4 years. So you can imagine the locals pretty much hate the Germans. Okay. And as a retreating army, they've stolen everything they can carry. Food and coal, winter fuel. And it also happens to be one of the coldest European winters in history. You've got a Belgian population now, after 40 years of occupation, starving to death and freezing to death. But what the Belgians do have is 180 First World War German cemeteries with nice wooden crosses. So we come to the German cemeteries, take the crosses and burn them in their houses. Survival. But it means when the Germans come back in the 50s to manage their cemeteries, they find lots of the cemeteries have got no crosses left whatsoever. Langemark here, most of them are gone, what was left were rotten, so they stripped them all away. And because of that poor funding, you have 4 cemeteries now, obviously they're condensed into the 4 cemeteries, but with no grave markers for 20 years. So in the 1970s, the German government allocates funding to the German War Grave Commission, and they spend the money on these grave markers. So they choose granite because it doesn't rot away like wood. You can get multiple names on there. Okay? When it pours down with rain here, they self-clean pretty much, and you can mow around them easily. Nothing to do with we wouldn't let the Germans or that like crosses in. Practical, exactly. But it does mean one thing, and the Germans are very happy to admit this. Okay, because the original grave markers are gone, therefore so are the reference points for the graves. So the names on these stones do not necessarily represent the buildings beneath them. So Carl Petrie, he's a good fighter, he's a corporal. He might be buried here, or over there, or over there. He won't be over there somewhere, he won't be too far. But the Germans, they class this whole cemetery as one big communal grave, in effect. So what we'll do, guys, we'll wander over to have a look at...
So then, Mum, what do you think about the tour?
Very good. I'm glad we've done it. Yeah, excellent. Host is great. Very knowledgeable. Even though he's trying to sell us his books.
I'm glad you got that on camera. What about you and Dave?
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Get to learn a lot. I don't think he's trying to sell us the books. I just think he's advertising
because the farm building on the other side of the road which no longer exists, the Essex Regiment were here early in 1915, called this Essex Farm. Ypres are called Wipers, Brewster, Bug Street. This place is here from Cambridge Road, Battle Junction, White Park Corner, and Brindle Corner where we were earlier. So the naming places were back at home. Dates here. These are first and last burials